But the thing with business too is you never know. You never know what's going to work. You never know what's going to propel you forward towards your dream and your goal. And the other things you're going to put a lot of time and money into and being like, wow, all right, lesson learned, that did not work.
Fear has a way of making the next step feel so much more bigger than it really is. In this episode, I talk with Tammy Gustafson, author of Broken to Brave, about risk, about failure, about healing, and what it means to keep moving on even when you feel scared. One of the lines from Tammy that really stood out to me was, I don't want to let fear be the driver and the thing that decides what I do and don't do. And I think that's the heart of the conversation. We talking about moving through fear. And you might have a story, a course, or a message, some sort of calling that has been sitting inside you, sitting in the background, sitting in a desk drawer, and you don't get to it because fear keeps you taking that next step, and it says it's too dangerous to move forward. But waiting does not always make that fear go away or make things better. Sometimes what makes the fear go away is walking and taking that next step, even when you are afraid, like moving even when you're scared. And Tammy talks about that as she was writing the book. She reminds us so beautifully that success is not always the final outcome. Sometimes success is just showing up and trying again and learning. And one of her other quotes was, just be gentle with yourself as you're going through this process. I know you're going to enjoy the conversation. And we talked about having a group of people around you that can support you and help you and give you hope and courage and confidence, even when you are racked with fear. And one of the things I do for people is I have mission labs. The next free mission lab is Tuesday, June 16th. If you just want to come and chat and talk about your idea and get a few minutes with me talking about what questions you have for your next step forward, go to the course creation community. So that's at coursecreationstudio.com/store. And you can find the community group in there. It's a free link to sign up, and then it'll show up in your library. If you need any help with that, it's James at coursecreationstudio.com, and I can help you get signed up. I love talking to people who are stepping through their fear and moving forward to bring their mission to life in the world. All right, it's now time to listen to the episode where I talk with Tammy about how she moved through fear to create her community, to create her book, and to create the conference that is now part of her story and journey. All right, welcome back to the Scaling Therapist podcast. I'm your host, James Marland. This is the show where I help you turn wisdom into income. Today, I have a special guest, Tammy Gustafson. Gustafson, did I say it right?
Yep, you got it.
I got it okay? Okay. Welcome, Tammy, to the show. I got introduced to you by your book, Broken to Brave, Your Courageous Act of Healing After Intimate Betrayal. And I just thought that was such a brave topic to write about, where most of us would hide and not want to talk about those things. You've actually turned it into something that has helped you and helped other people. So Tammy, let's talk about that, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
Well, our main topic, we're going to get to our main topic, but we're going to start with the book. The main topic is how your relationship with risk and failure is your key to success. Tammy, you've definitely had some bumps and bruises along the way, and you've used that to help you in your business. And I'm really excited to learn about those things because, as we were saying, I'm risk adverse. I don't like risk. I like to play it safe. And I know that has been impacting me. So I'm really excited to hear your message, but you have this ministry and this book that you've produced. So why don't we start there, and then we'll get into some of the details on risk.
Yeah. So the book, I'm a licensed professional counselor. And so I have been a counselor for, I've been seeing for clients about 20 years now. And I always specialized in trauma and loved seeing my clients in PTSD and all that stuff. And then a little over a decade ago, my marriage blew up and betrayal entered my story. And let me tell you, I did not want anybody to know. I used to tell people my story can die 1,000 deaths. I'm not sharing it with anybody. I don't want to use it for good, none of that, because it is terrifying. But it started a long process, a long, painful process of healing. And in the end, fast forward, in the end, I made it. And in the end, I came out of it even kind of a stronger version, more true to myself than I ever was. And my marriage made it as well. But the process of writing the book, the decision to write the book, was painful and grueling and terrifying, to be honest. Like, I think we see sometimes the book come out in the pretty cover and all that. And we think, oh, congratulations. That's, fantastic. And it doesn't tell any of this backstory about all of the fear and the work and the insecurities to get there. I'm actually really glad we're talking about this and how much risk and fear plays into all this, because I think the true story is in both. The true story is in the pretty cover and the book is out there. And the true story is also in the terrifying, difficult process that it took to get there.
Yeah, that's so true. One of the things I remember when I look at other people and they have this great website, or they wrote this book, or they have this amazing ministry or program that's up and running, and you don't realize the stuff that's underneath it. Like that this instant success was 10, 15 years of pain in the making. And it's a reminder that we see on Instagram and Facebook and whatever, we see the glossy front, but underneath there's a story there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for me, kind of this parallel process, because the book is part of my story, it's part of my counseling process, right? Now I also, over time, it became the main thing that I really do professionally is I come along beside betrayed partners and help them heal and help guide them through this healing process, which is such an honor to do. So there's that side of it. But then there's also the business side, as you and I both know, and what it took on a business level to get to that place. And so my process with the book, obviously personally started over a decade ago, but then really about 6 years ago, I started to feel like, man, I have this book inside of me. And I remember I was driving up to the mountains. I live in Colorado. I was driving up to the mountains and I started a voice memo of how if I was going to write a book, not that I want to write a book, but if I was to write a book, and I just started talking. And then it just kept on going and going. And I got done with that. And I was like, oh no. Oh, like I think I really do have a book inside of me. And again, at that place, I'd had a counseling practice for a long time. I hadn't even started a coaching practice yet, which is now kind of my main focus. And I still didn't want to tell anybody. But I was like, I had this inside of me and going, all right, if I do this, what do I need to do to get there? And I knew that there were steps I was going to have to take along the way. I knew I was going to have to start putting myself out there. I knew I was going to have to grow an email list. And I had already had some time owning my own business. So I had some of those foundations under me. But that started that process of like, you're talking about the long-term goal. Like, yes, so many of our goals and of the things that, the end product, the shiny cover, like you said, it is years in the making and it is small steps along the way. And I found that there were things I tried in business on this process that were a total flop. Like some stuff I sold literally zero. Like I created this program, zero, nobody bought it. I was like, wow, okay. And then I tried something else and it went okay. And then the thing that landed for me is I finally tried doing this online conference and it hit a bullseye and it exploded. But the thing with business too is you never know. You never know what's going to work. You never know what's going to propel you forward towards your dream and your goal. And the other things you're going to put a lot of time and money into and being like, wow, all right, lesson learned, that did not work.
Yeah, the there it's the going back to the topic of fear and risk, they're really tied together. You mentioned quite a few things. One of them was you wanted to hide your story for the longest time. What made you decide that it was time to share that?
To be honest, I went in a little kicking and screaming, but I had some friends who were in this industry who had helped me along the way. And one in particular opened up some doors for me. She opens up some doors for me to speak to some small groups. And I stepped through that, very scared, but I stepped through it. And then there was another opportunity, another door opened. And I was like, all right, I can choose not to because I'm scared, but I don't want to let fear be the driver and the thing that decides what I do and don't do. And so I stepped through that, scared, but I stepped through it. And over time, that just kind of built. And slowly it just became, it became such a passion because I know the pain that I mainly work with women who have been betrayed, but I know the pain they're going through. I know the process of healing and I can see those patterns. And that's kind of the benefit of being both a clinician with a couple decades of experience where you can see the patterns of healing, how to walk people through things and help them heal. They can heal. And also having that personal experience. I know it in my head, but I know it in my heart too, and in my body and in my gut. And so I think it was, you asked me, how did I do that? I did it reluctantly, but I was like, all right, the door is open. I'm going to step through it, even though I'm scared. And then over time, those built and I grew resiliency along the way.
What I hear is you didn't eat the elephant in one bite. You took some small steps. You took what was available and stepped out in fear, but with some courage. And then as you were successful with some of those things, the confidence grew. And as the confidence grew, so did your reach and your audience. And it ultimately ended up into what it is today. And I bet it's still growing. As you continue to do more and more things, your confidence continues to grow. But what I heard is you just took the step that was available to you. Somebody said, hey, would you speak? And that's not the same thing as writing a book, but it's also it could be the first step. You're speaking as an expert on a topic and you continued to push through the fear and go through. Was there did you have a support group to help you or people encouraging you? Because doing this stuff on your own seems almost impossible. What did you do to push through some of that fear and continue moving on, even when your brain is like, please don't do this to me?
Right. Yes, absolutely. And the one thing I would say, going back to you would say, I don't know that it was my confidence that built over time, because I think my confidence was there. I think it was my, how much I was able to handle the vulnerability and the exposure. And for me, that's what it was. It was every time I did that, it was opening myself up to more and more levels of vulnerability and exposure, which always feels scary. But going back to what you just asked about, did I have a group of people? Yes. And I think that is the only way I was able to make it through, is because I had a core little tribe that saw me and knew me deeply. And I would come in after every step I would take or every talking point, every time I was about to get on stage for something, I would FaceTime them or Marco Polo them and be like, hey guys, I'm going out there kind of freaking out, but it's going to be okay. And just knowing that they heard me and that they caught me and they knew me gave me the ability to move forward. And especially as I moved farther and into this book, that is the only way I got through this, is that there were people who I could go to when because I'd go on these writing retreats. I was not the get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and write for an hour type of writer. That's not me. So I'd go away once a month for a weekend and I would just write and write. And a lot of times it was fine. And then there were times I would get these waves of insecurity. And a couple times they felt crippling. And so I just when that happened, I just reached out to my tribe, my people, and be like, hey guys, I need help. This is where I'm at. and they would surround me and they would catch me and they would pick me up and they would believe in me and speak into me.
Oh.
And they would help me. They would help ground back in why I was doing it, which I think is so crucial. And yes. And as we tie this into risk and fear, there's so much risk in all of this, right? There's so much risk. And there's so much fear, and there's fear of failure and all that. But I think the antidote to risk and fear in particular is that you have that group of people who will catch you, that know you deeply and believe in you and can catch you. Because if I didn't have that, none of this would have happened. And I think also what it also does along the way, the antidote to that is having people who will catch you. But it's also learning and growing in that I can trust myself too. It's like trusting others to catch you, but it's also learning to trust yourself that you're going to be okay, that I'm going to be okay. And if I fail, kind of like when I did that whole program and nobody bought it, it's like all those times, like you can trust yourself of it's okay. Failure is a part of learning. And when you feel weak and vulnerable, that's okay too. You can reach out to help in others. And we don't have to do this all alone.
Such an inspiring message, because often the internal dialogue is not, it's going to be okay. It's like, oh, my life is over. Such a disaster. I can't believe I took this risk and now nothing works and wasted all this time. You maximize the negative. Like I do. I don't know if that's common, but you maximize the negative. You feel like such an imposter, like everybody else has it all together and you're the only one that can't get your stuff together and make it work. And yeah, that internal dialogue it's difficult. It's punishing. But what you were saying about having that group of friends, the antidote to some of those fears is people who believe in you. People who believe in you before you might even believe in yourself. And then they lend you the courage. They lend you the confidence, I guess, to move forward. And what a great insight on navigating this world of fear and risk, because it's hard to do hard things by yourself.
Yeah, it is. And I would say I've come to believe, at least for myself, now I've come to believe in general, that your relationship with risk, with fear, with failure is actually going to determine a lot about how things go.
How did you come up with that? Was there a moment? Was there a story? Or was it just sort of your life experience? How did you come up with this, that your relationship with risk and fear is going to determine, is like the key to some of your success?
Because I think those are the things that will stop you, right? I think risk and fear
yeah,
and also failure too are the things that'll stop you. So then it's like, okay, what is your relationship with those things? Because if you can, like, I'm scared a lot with this book. This book is terrifying to put out there and expose myself to the world. But over time, I've chosen not to let that stop me. I also, one of the things I looked at too is I've had colleagues say before, like, where did you come from? Like all of a sudden, like they'd been in the industry for a while. And the thing is, I looked back on, I thought, one thing that's maybe a little unique about me is I risk big. And when you risk big, you fail big. But when you risk big, you also can succeed big. And I think that makes a difference too. But if you're going to risk big, then you're going to have to work on that relationship with fear and with failure, because all of that stuff is possible. But I think part of what we have to do too is we have to separate out what we're feeling from the choices we make. And we have to separate out quote unquote success or failure from our self-worth. Because if it goes to I failed, I didn't sell any of those things, any of those courses that I put together. And if that goes to a place of I'm a failure, then that's going to stop me. Versus, wow, all right, you just throw things out and you see if they work. And that one did not work. So what can I learn from it? And of course, that's easier said than done, but that's the wrestling through the relationship with it part.
Yeah, it's totally, your identity does not come from the product you release. It comes from who you are and what you're trying to do and why you're doing it.
Yes.
And if you see yourself, I tell my students, see yourself as little scientists, just sort of like running experiments, hopefully minimum viable product experiments. Like you're not spending $10,000 to record a course that nobody watches. You're running little experiments, speaking engagement here, blog post there, podcast recording there. If you get traction, maybe you're onto something. As you were talking about the relationship between like failure being the blocker to success, it reminded me of a phrase. Somebody has said this before, but I kind of came up with it, and maybe I heard it from somebody else, but it was like, the fear of failure kills more dreams than actual failure ever could.
So
And
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
the fear of failure will keep your idea in a desk drawer, not seeing the light of day. As you were talking about some of your early things, what is one of the moments you remember that you had a decision to either give in to fear or move forward? Was there one of your early ones or later ones that you're like, I'm either going to pack it in or move forward?
Oh man, I feel like that's a daily question.
True. That's true.
Oh,
Yeah.
there were early on when I was writing the book,
Mm.
there were so many times I would text my little tribe this. I'm like, I really just want to hit delete on this
Mm.
manuscript and just pretend nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
That nobody has it yet. Let's just hit delete and pretend like just go on with life. I think that was many times along the way. I felt that way. But the thing I kept coming back to in those moments, the thing that kind of kept me going, is I thought, if I got to the end of my life and I looked back and I thought, or I looked back and I didn't write the book because I was scared, I would think that would be tragic. And to me, I look at it, I'm like, to me, a tragic life is one where you don't go after what you want and you don't step into that. And so that's just my version. That doesn't have to be other people's version. But I was like, that would be tragic if there was something that I knew I was supposed to do. I knew I was supposed to write this book. I didn't want to, but I knew I was supposed to. And if I hadn't done it because I was scared, what a tragedy that would be. That's kind of what helped me keep going.
Where did that long-term view come from? Because in the moment, I want to be safe. I want to be comfortable. I don't want any embarrassment, discomfort, stumbling, or people to know my mistakes or failures. But it sounds like your view was not just immediate comfort, but, long-term vision, legacy. Did your parents teach you that? Did you learn it in therapy school? Like where did you get that view?
Well, you want to dive deep for a minute? Okay.
Let's do it.
I think part of it for me, I grew up scared a lot. I was scared a lot growing up. And I learned to do things scared. And so through that, over the course of time, that's kind of where my relationship with fear started, is I learned to do things even though I was scared. And so that was part of it, right? And so I think the message from that is here's my counselor part coming out, but our background and the good and the bad that happened to us in childhood or that didn't happen or whatnot, that really does impact now our relationship with fear and with risk pretty deeply. But we can take all of those things and all those lessons that we learned in life, and we can learn them and we can incorporate and heal from them, and they can become the catalyst for moving forward. So as I look at it now, like I'm a fairly driven person. And so I think that part kind of built kind of the foundation for that. And then I think it was just kind of observing people. And I've had a lot of older family members die over the last several years. And a lot of them lived long, good lives, but it makes you pause and think and go, what? I think that's where that legacy piece started to come from, of looking back. over their life and the things that they were happy with and the things that they weren't happy with. And for me to put myself in those shoes and go, okay, when I get there, because we all will, right? When I get there and I look back, what are the things that I am going to be proud of? What are the things that I know that I really needed to do or I could have done in this world? I don't have to save everybody. That's not anything I need to do. But what was I called to do and supposed to do in this one life that we have? And that was this book. And if I let fear get in the way of that, that wasn't something I wanted to let happen.
Could be a tragedy. Sure.
It would be a tragedy.
I did an exercise that still impacts me today. I read the book Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. And in that, one of the first things you do is you write your own eulogy. And you write out what do you want your family to say about you? What do you want your business byline to be? What do you want your friends to say? What's your spiritual side? What are you doing for your community? And then you write that out and you read it often. And I still do that because it kind of centers me on just what you're saying. You're not here forever, and death is going to come for us all. There's something in Ecclesiastes, I'm not going to get it right, but it's something like funerals are better than parties or something like that, because it just gives you perspective, and they're wake-up calls. They're wake-up calls of the reality of life. Fortunate to get that perspective as soon as possible, to get that perspective that life is here and you do not want to be at the end and, oh, I wish I did this, or this is something that I should have done, but I didn't. And when you talked about your childhood, those things can stay with us. The childhood stories and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are as a person. It sounds like you learned to capture those stories and transform them so that they influence you, but they're not directing your life. You kind of created your own story from your fear. This is what I mean by that. I used to be afraid of speaking in public because whenever I spoke in public, I messed up, or I messed up a line in a song once for choir in like 5th grade or something. And I just carried that with me forever, that being seen up front is scary and avoid it as much as possible, which is not very good to run a business. And so I carried that story and then I captured it and said, it served me for a time to when I changed schools 9 or 10 times before 8th grade. But it doesn't serve me in my 30s, 40s, 50s. That's where I was going with that story, that some of those old stories that served the time, you honor them, you remember them, but then you also realize you can move on from them and rewrite your story. So that's how I understood what you were going.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever did it as formally perhaps as you did, but yeah, that's kind of what it is, right? Because if there's one thing I learned through the process of going through my own betrayal and then also walking others through it, is that we can heal. And it doesn't feel like that, actually, especially when you're going through the hard things, especially when we have those wounds and whatnot. But that's one of the absolute honors I have in what I do, is that I get to see people heal and I get to help them heal. And our experiences, they always impact us, right? And sometimes they can be vulnerabilities. I feel like we all have areas of vulnerability based on our life experience, based on our temperament, whatever. We always have things that when things are hard, we might have to go back and fight and come back and remind ourselves, like for me, okay, I'm safe. Launching this book and feeling like exposure, I have gone through multiple layers of having to go, okay, I'm safe. I'm okay. I know there's all this exposure. It's okay. Or if I need to go hide for a while and just go to my safe place for a while and kind of gather my strength and then come back out, that's okay. I can do that. So it's like honoring those vulnerabilities, or there's things that we are probably always going to have to come back to and nurture in ourselves, and then moving forward. And I think the things that have helped me move forward the most, I was going to go therapy and say EMDR, which is true, But I think even prior to that, for me, the fear was having these corrective experiences with safe people. And even now, it kind of continues to go back to when I have experiences with people who are safe and who can help me grow and accept me and help me like accept myself and move forward and feel surrounded within scary places, then that strengthens that piece of me. So I guess my message in all of that is we can heal. We can actually grow and become strong in these areas. We might have to honor ourselves. And then if we have safe people around us and people that love us and support us, it just helps so much.
Great. I want to give you one last question, or one last, we're wrapping up here. You can either answer this question or answer something you wish I would have asked. And that we didn't get to. And you're like, when is he going to ask that? I just want, maybe if you could speak to the person, who's struggling and they feel stuck or they're afraid to move. And it could be in business or in life. What's one small message or one small risk that you would want them to take this week?
I would say redefine success. Redefine success for you. And success doesn't have to be the final outcome, right? Success can be your mindset of switching and going, my version of success is that I'm going to keep showing up. My version of success is that I am going to keep trying and keep learning. And instead of viewing all the times that you don't get it right as failure, if you can redefine that and go, I am continuing, no matter what, I'm continuing to take that step towards my goal. And every step along that way, I am calling that success because I am showing up and I am learning and growing every step along the way. So redefine it, and you got it, and be really gentle with yourself.
Beautiful. That's such an important message for those people who are hurting and are struggling to move forward. I loved it. All right. Before I ask you where people can find you, I have a couple fun questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
I actually planned this for the beginning, but we got started and I skipped right over it. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Okay. Favorite season of the year?
Fall.
Okay. Book at the beach or hike in the woods?
Oh. Ooh. Book in the woods. Book in the mountains. Book in the mountains.
Yeah. I was like, oh, she lives in Colorado.
I know.
She
I
might
need my
like
mountain.
the mountains. And then that's about it. Those are the questions. I was going to ask maybe what book you would take with you, but do you have a book you're reading right now?
I don't, but I have a whole stack for in a couple of months. And one I'm so excited about, it's these little old ladies in Sweden in a retirement home that are sick of the accommodation. So they decide they are going to get arrested by doing little heists so they can go to jail where the accommodations are better. It sounds hilarious. I can't wait to read it.
Is it a true story?
I hope so.
Fiction?
Oh, I hope it's true.
Wow. That's amazing.
I wish
Wonderful.
I remembered the title.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a great read. Okay. So, Tammy, could you, thanks so much for this conversation. It sounds like you have a lot to offer, the book, the coaching, the conference. Can you tell people where they can find you and what they can see on your webpage?
Yeah, best place is my website, tammygustafson.com. And yeah, the most fun things I do is that I take women who are far along in the healing process after betrayal to Paris for a retreat to rediscover life and joy and beauty and adventure. So that's the most fun thing you'll find on my website, but there's more there you can check out.
That makes me curious. Okay. I hope it makes the listeners curious too. That's amazing. All right. Thank you, Tammy, for being on the show.
Thanks so much. This was a fun conversation. I enjoyed it.
All right, listeners, it's now time to take one small risk this week. Let me know what it's going. If you took a risk this week, if this show impacted you, let me know. You can look me up on LinkedIn, social media, or james@coursecreationstudio.com. It's now time to put your mission in motion. We'll see you next week. Two things before we go. First, I want to thank our pro level sponsors. First, we have Humor Speaks. RevKey, the Practice Collab, Arc Integrated, Therasas CRM, Guest Compliance Consulting, Freedom Business Solutions, Boss Co., and Profit Comes First. Thanks for them for supporting the show and helping us encourage more therapists, coaches, and helpers to put their mission in motion. You can find those providers at scalingtherapistservices.com. Finally, conversations like this remind me that this brave work of trying something new it's rarely easy. In fact, often it's hard. Tammy said something powerful in this episode that I want to reiterate. Don't let fear be the driver. And I hope that's the words that you needed today. You don't have to wait until the fear goes away. You don't have to wait until you have a perfect plan. You don't have to build your mission on your own. You don't have to do it all by yourself. You can take some small steps forward. Maybe one of those small steps forward is joining the Mission Lab. The next one is Tuesday, the 16th of June. And if you have an idea, a course, a message, or a calling that is in your head and you're thinking about doing it, it's on the shelf though, because you're not sure what to do next, come to the Mission Lab, ask your question, and we'll get you started and moving in the right direction. You'll get encouragement, direction, maybe a couple tools, and you'll see some other people that are doing the same things you're doing. To join, just go to coursecreationstudio.com/store and you'll see the community link in there. Then it'll be in your library. Come to the next Mission Lab and see that you are not alone. And there are other people moving through their fear to take those next small steps forward. Remember, it's time to put your mission in motion. You're the only one who can do it. So hopefully we will see you in the Mission Lab, and we'll see you next week for the next episode.